mean, he's front running every corporation at this point because corporations are going to put Bitcoin on their treasury balance sheets in mass in the next few years, probably. And he's spent the last 2 years front running all of that.
Who is he talking about? None other than Mr. Michael Saylor, the Bitcoin man himself. We're going to talk about how MicroStrategy has used Bitcoin to further their company and make their shareholders a lot of money, and why other companies similar to MicroStrategy, some of the top ones, including maybe Tesla, Apple, and Microsoft, could potentially adopt the same Bitcoin standard that Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy have done. Now, let's take it all the way back to when this thing first came to fruition. The date here is August 11th of 2020. MicroStrategy becomes the first listed company to buy Bitcoin as part of its capital allocation strategy. This is a quote from Michael Saylor back in 2020. Our investment in Bitcoin is part of our new capital allocation strategy, which seeks to maximize long-term value for our shareholders. This investment reflects our belief that Bitcoin, as the world's most widely adopted cryptocurrency, is a dependable store of value and an attractive investment asset with more long-term appreciation potential than holding cash. And so far, 4 years later, that has been absolutely, unequivocally, 100% true. Taking a look here from BitcoinTreasuries.com. This is a timeline of all of MicroStrategy's purchases. You can see here the very first one, as mentioned, August 11th of 2020, buying 21,454 Bitcoin, worth at the time $250 million. And you can see here, Michael Saylor has stuck to his word. We will continue to buy Bitcoin no matter what the price is. And what better visual to show you than this? This is a Bitcoin chart, and it shows you all the MicroStrategy Bitcoin purchases and what the price was. So you take a look at the very first purchase was at 11,600 Bitcoin per. So the price of Bitcoin was 11,600. You had another 30,000 Bitcoin purchase at 21,900. They bought the top a few times. So they bought the first top at 59,000. They bought 262 Bitcoin. Then they also bought the second top, 7,000 Bitcoin, at around $59,187. They continue to buy the way up. They continue to buy the way down. They do not care what the price of Bitcoin is because the time horizon is over decades and not years. And so what people are going to do is they're going to look at what Michael Saylor has done. Even with a volatile asset like Bitcoin, even with a short 4-year window, their average price of Bitcoin, their purchase, is around $31,000, $32,000. That's in 4 years. Imagine what those numbers are going to look like in the next 10 to 15 years. So the latest holdings of MicroStrategy, according to Mr. Saylor here, is 214,246 Bitcoin. More than 1% of the maximum supply of Bitcoin is currently held by MicroStrategy. And you can see here, average price, I was incorrect. It's $35,160. A 2x on their entire portfolio to where Bitcoin's price is today, roughly around 68,000, 69,000. Now, Michael Saylor, they had a board meeting and they discussed what to put on their Treasury Reserve balance sheet. And I got a chance to ask him in Miami, Bitcoin Conference 2022, hey, was it Bitcoin all along or was there something else in store? Listen to what he had to say.
In July 2020, in your board meeting, you told the board that you were interested in either getting into Bitcoin or other reserve assets. Was it Bitcoin the entire time? Or was it a ploy to say you were thinking about gold?
We considered everything: gold, commodities, art, real estate. After a deliberative process, we finally concluded that Bitcoin was the ideal Treasury Reserve asset.
The ideal Treasury Reserve asset. Now, some more up-to-date news. So Michael Saylor, who is no longer the CEO as he stepped down, he is now serving as the executive chairman. Partly the reason why he said he stepped down was to be able to focus more on their Bitcoin strategy as a company. He sold 5,000 of his shares, his personal shares, I might add. So a lot of people, of course, are speculating, is he trading in dollars for more Bitcoin? Could we see another big Bitcoin buy from Mr. Michael Saylor soon? That remains to be seen. Now, for people wondering, well, what if he decides to sell, right? So this is from his own mouth. Michael Saylor is not interested in selling. He says Bitcoin is the exit strategy, telling Bloomberg TV there's no reason to sell the winner and buy the losers, referencing fiat currency and cash. Now, and then, of course, his continuous tweets, Bitcoin is winning. Performance since August 10th of 2020, which is one day before they bought their first Bitcoin. You can see bonds and silver are in the red. Gold is up only 7% in 4 years. NASDAQ is up 50%, which is pretty massive. S&P up 56%. We're talking about a $44 trillion asset, and Bitcoin in 4 years is up 432%. While some people laughed at Michael when he decided to buy Bitcoin and put it on their balance sheet, a lot of people, I'm sure, are picking up the phone and giving him a ring right now. Now, the video I showed you in the opening of this video was Preston Pysh on a podcast here on the Swan podcast talking about what Michael Saylor is doing. And in this part of the video, he discusses just the absolute genius of Michael Saylor and how he is leveraging the stock of the company and money to issue more shares and to use that to buy Bitcoin. Listen to what he has to say.
So when we look at equity all over the world, especially publicly traded equity, it's typically around a PE of 30 to 35 times. Okay. That's the current market rate if you're dealing with billion-dollar enterprise in any type of developed public markets these days. If that valuation is rich and we're moving into a Bitcoin world, what it means is you should be issuing shares and taking those shares and converting it into the new settlement layer. Okay. And the proof in the pudding is the performance of MicroStrategy in how much Bitcoin you hold in a per share basis over the last year. So what Michael Saylor is literally screaming to the world with his actions is, not only is my MicroStrategy overvalued at whatever it is, 30 or 35 times earnings or whatever it is today, but so is your equity. And what you should be doing is selling more of this common stock at 30 or 35 times earning and converting it into Bitcoin and sticking it on your treasury.
Now, if you're not familiar, the PE he's referring to is the price per share of your earnings. So we take a look. What is a good PE ratio? Okay, so this comes into fundamental analysis of what the traditional investors do. This is part of the reason why they can't really wrap their heads around Bitcoin and put a value on it, because there's no fundamentals, there's no company revenue, right? So below 20 is considered a good PE. Where is MicroStrategy's PE with the stock at $1,576? It's over 60. It's 3 times what is considered good. You take a look at other companies in the tech sector. Let's look at Apple. They're at a 26 price to earning ratio. You look at Tesla. They're at a 38 price to earning ratio. Now, how do you bring this PE number down? Because the way you do it is you take the earnings and you divide it into the amount of shares. So if you want to bring this number down, you have to dilute the market with more of your shares, which is what precisely Michael Saylor is doing. So instead of doing stock splits, he's issuing shares. So now going from, let's just call it an even 10 million shares at a PE of 60, if he issues another 10 million shares, this number gets dropped by half. So now when someone looks at the fundamentals of MicroStrategy, they can say, okay, they're trading at a 30 PE versus a 60 PE. Now, what does he do with the 10 million shares that he issues now into the market? Well, people are buying those shares, and he takes that money and he turns around and he buys Bitcoin, sticks it on the balance sheet, and it brings the valuation of the company up. Rinse and repeat. I mean, it's pretty exciting what this man is doing. Now, you take a look at some of the other ones like Tesla, for example. Tesla always gets the moniker of they are overvalued. Elon Musk is a smart man. Could he look to bring this PE down to, let's say, 25 and issue that difference in shares and take that money and buy Bitcoin, knowing with the halving, knowing with the ETFs, with institutional demand coming in, that it's going to give some sort of concrete valuation outside of just revenue and projected revenue going into the future. It's pretty exciting. Now, the other big thing, and someone like me has said on my live show, which you come check out Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, is, well, prior to the ETFs going live, people would buy MicroStrategy as a proxy to Bitcoin. With the ETFs now, why would anyone do that when they can just buy the ETF? Michael Saylor answers that question in this CNBC interview with Andrew Sorkin. Listen to this.
Yeah, so BlackRock is like the container ship or the super tanker of Bitcoin. They can take $1 billion a day into their capital structure, and they can haul that very efficiently, 25 basis points. MicroStrategy is like air freight. We got higher performance. So what's going on here? MicroStrategy's got leverage. If we borrowed $800 million at 62 basis points, is there any company in the world that you wouldn't like to invest in that could borrow $1 billion at less than 1% interest to invest in your best idea? So we get that very intelligent leverage. It's
if he stopped right there, that alone, if you're an investor and you're looking at a company to invest in, that alone should perk up your endorphins there.
It's non-recourse, it's unsecured, and then we buy Bitcoin with it. That leverage gives us volatility. It gives us performance. The performance gives us volatility. The volatility attracts capital, and we can then leverage more. It's kind of intelligent because it's convertible debt. It's given our shareholders more Bitcoin per share this week than they had a few weeks ago. So it's very accretive for them. And it's pretty compelling for every investor. If you're Bitcoin curious right now and you want to buy Bitcoin at the all-time high, how do you get the upside in Bitcoin with downside protection? MicroStrategy sold $800 million in debt, and we have $13 billion of Bitcoin on the balance sheet. So we're giving you an over-collateralized loan and the upside. But if you're a Bitcoin maximalist and you love Bitcoin and you want to hold it forever, the ETFs charge you 25 basis points. MicroStrategy is accreting. We're giving you a yield against your shares.
So you can either pay BlackRock 0.25% to have exposure to Bitcoin, or you can have the same exposure to Bitcoin and MicroStrategy will pay you 0.62%. It's pretty obvious. It's just so intriguing to me. I hope you're watching and find this stuff intriguing as well, because what Michael Saylor is doing will be looked at, dissected, and talked about for years to come. This man is going to go down in history as potentially the second most important person to Bitcoin, obviously outside of Satoshi Nakamoto, when it comes to adoption. Now, one of those loans he is talking about, if you guys remember, MicroStrategy did take out a $205 million Bitcoin-backed loan to buy more Bitcoin. This was through Silvergate Bank. Everyone was worried, hey, he's going to get liquidated. He did not get liquidated. And so Mr. Saylor has seemed to figure this thing out. He's making money for himself. He's making money for his company. And more importantly, if you're a publicly traded company, he's making money for his shareholders. And he's positioning his company, MicroStrategy, to be the top in the world. They did also crack the top 500 most valuable when it comes to market cap. You take a look. Speaking of most valuable by market cap, what are some of the companies that might potentially take some of adopt a similar strategy that Michael Saylor is? Of course, I'm not saying this is happening, but you take a look at the #1 company in the world is Microsoft. Software, MicroStrategy is software, technology, MicroStrategy's a little technology. They're worth $3.16 trillion. Apple, the biggest tech company in the world, well, the second, is valued at $2.62 trillion. They have about $180 billion in cash on the side. And guess what? Their PE is around 26. So could they look to bring that down to attract more investors and take some of that money and stick it on their balance sheet? You have tons of different names on here that have a lot of money that are going to watch as Bitcoin crosses 100, 150, 250, $1 million, and seeing the price and the valuation of MicroStrategy absolutely skyrocket. Nothing speaks. There's one universal language in the world, and that language is money, my friends. And if money speaks to these companies, guess what? They're going to do the same thing that Michael Saylor is doing. We hope you enjoyed the video. Let us know what you think in the comments section. Are you bullish on Michael Saylor? And are you bullish on Bitcoin in this bull market? And come check out our live show Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.